Hi, this is Kevin Snow with Snow Retirement Planning Company. In this video, I want to talk a little bit about sequence of returns, or what we call timing. In this case, hopefully you can see it on the screen, but I have a chart that illustrates the difference, and this is a critical difference, between the accumulation phase in life, when we're still working at the age of 25, 35, 45, 55, up till maybe we retire at 65, we're still working and contributing into usually a 401k plan or our savings. In that phase of life, this blue phase here, the timing of when the ups and the downs of the market occur are not near as important as the timing as when we do retire at age 65 or otherwise, and then we start to take income out of a portfolio. So the difference on this chart between the blue and the red is the difference between us still working, not making withdrawals on the blue side, and on the red side we're actually taking withdrawals out to the tune of 5%. Now in another video I'll talk about that 5% and a sustainable withdrawal rate and some of the things that we want to be careful with in that number. For the purpose of this though, we're using a 5% withdrawal rate. Now on this side we have two investors, A and B, and they're both still working. They're 25, 35, 45, up till age 65. They're still working, and they start with the same dollar amount, and they experience the same average returns here. Now this is in another video. I'm going to talk in more details of how important it is to be careful when we look at portfolios and you look at retirement income planning specifically. You want to be very careful not to assume overly optimistic average rates of return. So for example, these average rates of returns was 8% and 8% during the accumulation phase. Now over here with the two different investors, the only thing that differed was the timing of when the positive markets happen and the negative. So in case you can't see it on screen, I'm going to read off the returns here in the first couple of years. So this investor at age 41 in the first year experienced a negative 12%, while over here the same investor at age 41 experienced in the first year a positive 29% return. What we've done in this chart is simply reverse the order of the timing of when the positives and negatives happen. For example, in the second portfolio here, the positive 29 was down here in the reverse order, and over here the negative 12 was down here at the end. In other words, we just took and changed the timing of when the positives and negatives happened. At the end though of all of that, from age 41 to 65, they both average the same and they both accumulate to the same. So if you're still working and the market's very volatile and you're putting into your 401k, that's a good thing, because eventually over time the averages will work in your favor and you'll end up basically with the same balance. In this case, they started with 100,000 and both of them ended up with 684,000 and change. So when you're still working, you're still contributing, the averages are going to kind of take care of some of the volatility. Not so when you're retired, and this is critically important when it comes to retirement income planning. On this side, we have the exact same average. So over here they averaged 8% while they were accumulating. Over here we took the exact same order of timing of the positives and the negatives and put them over here on this side, and the only thing that we changed was, well, two things. One, now you're age 66, right? Because now you're retired and you're going to take out of that portfolio. So from age 66 to 90 over here you're age 41 to 65. So remember, over here the average kind of worked in your favor. You ended up both accumulating pretty much the same, well, exactly the same thing, same averages and everything. And this is where I often see people get lulled into complacency when they transition over into retirement and drawing income. Remember, over here, the one thing that's different is now we're taking out of this 684,000 that is the starting number over here, but now we're taking out 5% of that each year. We also have the exact same returns on this side as we did over here. So for example, at age 66, the first portfolio was a negative 12, just like it was over here when they were accumulating, and the other was a positive 29 just like they were over here when they were accumulating. Now remember, when both these portfolios on this side reach the bottom, they both have accumulated the same thing, they've averaged the same thing, even though the order of those returns was different. Over here, however, we've added the withdrawals at age 66 through 90, and the end result is dramatically different. Everything is the same, and here's the thing that I want most importantly to communicate in this video. The average return on this side is still 8%, just like it was over here in the accumulation phase. What's critically different is the timing of when we're taking out those withdrawals. So in this case, both portfolios start with the same amount. Remember, they accumulated the same over here. They're both starting with 684 and change over here, but now they're going to withdraw at a rate of 5% annual between the age of 66. Now, this investor had the misfortune of retiring in a bad year when the market was down. So they had a -12 that year. The following year, -21 and a -14. So they had 3 negative years back to back in the very beginning, and they needed income from their portfolio. So they eventually ran out of money at age 82. I mean, their money was all gone. Whereas the other investor had the good fortune of retiring in a good year. The first year was a +29, +18, +25 before they experienced any negatives. And they still have 2,600,000 and some thousand change left over. So what this is illustrating is the importance of taking into account when you're building a retirement income portfolio, the timing of when the market is up and when it's down is critically important. It also illustrates that you can't always assume average rates of return, and certainly not overly optimistic average rates of return. We'll talk in another video about the difference between a sustainable withdrawal rate and using a traditional portfolio to take all of your withdrawals out of just that portfolio versus maybe a bucket approach, which is what I would prefer, which is where you differentiate between the different accounts as to which one you're going to take income from first, or when the markets are at different times. So a bucket approach versus just setting up. With retirement income planning is far more detailed than just simply turning on a withdrawal program. And that's, I think, the main thing that I would hope that you could take away from this example is 2 things. 1, timing is critically important. And 2, you don't want to simply keep investing the way you did while you were still working because it worked then. You were adding to it, and the averages you ended up with in the same place. It can be very different, though, when you are retired and you're taking withdrawals out of a portfolio. That's when you critically need to look at not just Social Security and some of the other things we'll talk about, but maybe doing a bucket approach versus just simply turning on a withdrawal program. It's much more than that.